It's finally here. If you know what this is, you've wanted this, likely, for a very long time. A new way of talking being computing. More so than this brand or any other brand, we finally are starting to have look-through holographic computing in space. I'm extremely excited about this type of computation. Magically calls it spatial computing. We can call it the computer exploded out into the space. We can call it standing in the middle of a video game. Same tools that you use to make video games inside the computer or inside of virtual reality. But now we have this ability to mix the realities. This video is not so much a review. People are going to say one thing or another. I don't care. This is about the possibility space of external imagination, a space where something that we think of can emerge from our minds. At the Magic Leap conference itself, it was pretty great to see that the people working on it, although they've been very tight-lipped, are, for the most part, extremely open to ideas and have some good ideas themselves. There's a good trajectory into the deeper possibilities of this beyond games and such. What we're looking at here is a new form of language. We're going to be able to talk however we'd like. With this power, we're going to need sophisticated tools to let us easily do this with each other. Imagine a world where you go to a foreign land and you're really thirsty and I just need a drink. I just need water. These kinds of systems map the world. They create a mesh of all the walls in any given room. Eventually it will go outside, but for that it will need shared anchor points to triangulate between and isolate where you are. For now, it's using the geometry of a room to then situate various objects, creatures, things like that. This mesh right now is dumb. It's only geometry. So right now we could say we have the shape of things. We have planes, lines, objects with some dimension. Things like this. Where they're going to take us next as a supported aspect is semantic mappings, so that this is reverse for you. So this is a cube, sort of. Where we're going to head next, and what I was talking with a few of the designers of Magic Leap about, is another layer around this, which permeates through all of it, which is the meaning. This is what it means to me. Why is a chair comfortable? What is comfort? Etc., etc. All these different kinds of things can work as macros for the semantic layer. We build up more complicated things. What we ended up talking about was effectively creating a middleware in the operating system where there would be a kind of if this, then that. So while I'm looking over there and winking and doing a gesture like this, place the window where my gaze is going, for example. That's very mundane, but we can imagine the power of stringing together different macro sequences. Effectively, we're getting to Harry Potter as technology. No one really knows the best practices here for this. Right now I'm using a tool called Spatiate This is an alpha tool. I'm using an iPad, and I can see an avatar representation of the iPad. It's sort of to the side of it. This is by a team called Across XR. And again, all I need to do here is show you the power of being able to be with drawing, be with expression. This experience is already shared. Like I said, I'm using an iPad. So these tools are here now, and it's really important to begin not just creating these tools, but then also imagining what it's going to be like to speak a holographic language with one another, where we can give each other concepts. This video, again, is not intended as high production value. I'm really head down working on this. I've been thinking about it in 2D a lot. I'm seeing a lot of other people doing the pieces, and I really want to make sure that we all find each other for the various potentials of this device. Again, much beyond gaming. Ideally, if we can insert our vision of what is possible into these tools, we will be able to foster a time when this functions more like language, and there's not a learning curve, and there's not a power gradient where someone has made the tool and then disseminates it to all of us, but rather it always goes all ways, and everyone is free to intercommunicate about these things. My sincere hope is that we choose to use this technology to communicate things that have previously not been communicable. We can imagine a time before there were words themselves, and I think that that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing a new kind of vibration, if you like, a new kind of light wave, which we can speak to one another, and which is itself computational, meaning that it can do things in the world, which is itself becoming increasingly computational. This is finally an expression of what the medium of computer really can be. And it's important to remember what the medium of computer allows, which is not just directed, I have done this here, draw a line, but also a kind of simulation or life that can come when we stop drawing dead fish and instead begin imbuing the computation with life. As a small review of the Magic Leap headset itself, worth it, worth everything. If you have been waiting for this. This is definitely not the only device you can use to play with this kind of computation. I would recommend you get something so that you can start to play. 6 Degrees of Freedom is really good. If you can't afford this stuff, you can think about it. I've been thinking about it for 8 years of solid thinking about it. Like, not just, I wish I could do this or that, but really like, what does this medium look like? And it's fine, but you're so unbounded in your thoughts that you can create these lovely things. They're dreams, they're still in your head. So you really want to try to get things into this shared experience between us, because that is the magic of this, is that there's something between us now. To people concerned about the quality of this hardware or whatever, I would urge anyone who's considering this to take this and look at it from your heart, from the lens of your heart, and think, does this address some desire that I've had to be able to communicate, perform, look at data, dream, think, compute, make a game? If anything about this technology is hooking you in that delicious zone of fun, just dive in. Just dive in. This is far beyond any brand, far beyond any specific technology. This is a vision of what it could be like to use a computer where we get to continue being ourselves a lot more and not have to worry about sitting at a desk or learning a method or whatever, and really transition this into something that is just like speaking, like performing, like dancing, something we do with an embodied sort of sense, something that is learned more like magic. And it's funny how this one is called Magic Leap, which is why I think it's gathered a brilliant collective of people who are extremely open. If you have any cynicism around whether this company is open or not, you are the value. Every one of us who is an artist. It has become a cynical time with people exploiting such creativity, but ultimately the art on the money is what makes the money valuable in so many ways. That deep symbolism. Bring us your symbology. Personally, I want to see what's in your heart. That is the first and only reason that I really care about this stuff, is I just want to see what's inside people's hearts expressed through their minds as you be yourself. I want to see what the fullest expression of each of us really is. That's why I care about this, and that's why I hope that anyone who has a vision will feel comfortable inserting themselves into this space, because the message is that you're not going to be excluded, you're going to be welcomed. And it seems like right now we're needing to create a nice vortex to bring everyone together into this one space of co-creation. Like all languages, this is a collaborative effort. It's based on certain tools today, but pretty quickly we will replace the tools of today or evolve them in new ways, and that play will be really fascinating. This is about our humanity. This is about being thinking beings and then also feeling beings at the same time. I'm currently developing holographic healing, where I am creating a nice meditative experience with some training wheels for your attention. Again, because of that eye tracker and because of some other features, we can really make a nice centering experience. The Magic Leap also has great spatial audio, so that can be put into things like sound baths. This technology to me is about expression, but it's also about observing the world. I want to use these technologies to visualize things that we consider invisible today: electromagnetic fields, bioenergy, plant communication fields, all forms of energy in the world, and demonstrate through the photonics of this by creating mappings of the different energies. The way we can see infrared, we move it up into the visible spectrum. And you can see, I like to talk in this way. Going forward, my existence will feature a sort of speaking with holograms between us, being queued up in this magical way. I make this declaration to the world, to myself, to you who are watching, and to the companies building these things. This is the future of human language and thought. It is far larger than any concept individually that can be within it, being that business, money, even love, even peace, even joy, even hate, even all things which can be said, all words are within now this meta medium we call the computer, we call the spatial computer. And we're just going to keep adding things to this, including brain waves, heartbeat, field data, all manner of things will come and unite around a way of representing things and remapping things which are invisible into things which are visible. And that goes for sound as well, and giving people new sight of all kinds. Our world now has a complexity to it through the usage of the technic. We have created machinery which is far too complicated to understand from the perspective previous. We literally need new sight and new ways of holding on to state systems visually and tactily, so that we're going to be able to actually navigate what we have previously built. And that might be why so many of the people building this look similar to the people building it before. But personally, my entire goal is to ensure that that won't stay that way for very long, that the people who build this now are not necessarily the ones who are going to be the best at speaking it. Ken Perlin is really interested in that and talks about that in his research. And there's plenty of fun science fiction, like Rainbow's End, which everyone in this community has hopefully read, where people have taken this and run with it. And that means that the full expression of humanity is within it. So for good or bad, this will go to the military. It will also be an art medium. It will also be everything that humans are. So the other practices, your yogas, your meditations, I want to empower them through this and accelerate them, because if you have an interest in peace and you have an interest in coherence or togetherness, where people can express differences without there being catastrophic destructions on disagreements, it's going to be very important that we all find each other and really gear up, as it were, with whatever it takes to be able to communicate the best possible futures, the most inclusive futures. One note that I will say of the Magic Leap conference itself is, in it, the futurism doesn't feature a lot of plants. It's no accident to me that game developers are starting to make procedural plants in AR. I've seen this multiple times in these kinds of things and on phones. Go deeper with this. Plants, actual physical, tangible plants, are the future of our future. We are returning to a kind of technified nature, and we will have a naturified technic. This being bound together by our magical expressiveness of everyone becoming this kind of engineer-artist merger, where language itself is programming and programming itself is language. And I mean that not in the terms of knowing a dictionary, but in the terms of syncopation and bra-cha-cha-tat and making crap up as you go along, being powerful and generative and compatible. No one needs to download a special version of English and keep it updated necessarily, as so much as they need to experience English in order to understand what I'm saying. And so that means that while you still need to learn things to communicate, it will be something that is a lot more experienced rather than requiring someone's permission to use, in the sense of APIs and SDKs and all these things. In closing here, this specific headset called Magic Leap is the one I'm choosing to work with because it's really robust. It works very well, has a lot of inputs, and it's got a nice, easy to use developer pipeline. Easy to use in the sense of get ready to read a lot of documentation and be frustrated if you've never tried to make anything like this before. Like I have. I've never made games before, I've never done anything like this before. I'm a 2D designer who got stuck in the lie that I was bad at math. It's not true for anyone ever. We're all programmers, we all speak language, and we all think, so it's really all it takes. Jump into whatever makes sense to you, and I really want to see what you create, really want to find you, and especially those of you who are looking at this medium as something that is going to solve problems or bring things to light that previously were invisible. This, to me, is a paradigm shift in the way we see and are. I liken it to the very invention of glasses itself, the very invention of words themselves. This is a big one. This is a big one. Stepping inside of the visualizations of a computer in a world where we're increasingly adding computational measuring to it means that this is the sight of the future. This is the superpower of the future. The normal power of the future, in the same way that not being literate doesn't grant you into an access of a certain universe. Whether this is good or bad is something I grapple with, but it's ultimately not up to me to decide the way that people will take things. I don't think it's inevitable that these kinds of technologies will just immediately be adopted, especially not any particular brand, right? We know how innovation really works. It's never that easy. But the idea of this, the idea of the computer existing and you existing within the computer, is far too compelling to ignore. There's too much potential here for everyone, and it's going to be explored. So I really hope that the heart makes its way into here, and we explore these kinds of things and this kind of ability from a perspective of almost a childlike sort of glee. Don't be naive in the sense that, you know, there's a lot of embedded aspects into this. Even the fact that I plugged it into the wall still. And if you know about these things, keep going. In fact, let's try to make ways of seeing all the different web of karmic connections that make these kinds of things problematic. My hope is, again, to continue to bring things into the light. This is a technology that projects light on your eyes. To not utilize it in the pursuit of light would be not using an important tool in your toolkit. Not the only tool, but an important one. Concepts like pranic healing and energy work and the different energies of the body are much easier to communicate in this. I'm working on it and I love it. I've already changed the way I can see just in my little experiments with this. There are certain things that are going to be just easier to show than tell. Imagine living in a world where we share a performance layer where we can pantomime with holograms anything we like to fill in the edges between things that we don't know the words for. All of us speaking art, and that art being grounded in math to create a synergy, an ultimate synthesis of what humans have been up to for these previous hundreds, thousands of years, with our various ways of bridging the divide between what's in there and what's in here and creating something between us. This is the latest something between us, and it's a space for infinite somethings between us that are potentially very non-destructive, very collaborative, very uplifting. What we choose to do with technology is what it becomes. And now is the time for everyone, even if you feel like an imposter, to jump in and make technology what you want it to be. I want to see what's in your heart. And I think that this is a big part of how you can free not just your mind, but your spirit. Play like a goat. Watch like a hawk. This future is ours. The future is yours. The future is mine. Evil is telling someone they can't, ever. You can, and please show me. Thank you.